Production and distribution of City Club Forums on IdeaStream is made possible by the generous support of PNC and the Raskin Family Fund, with additional funding from Cleveland State University, Robert Conrad, and the Payne Fund.
Good afternoon. My name is Lori Rogdeiler, and I am the Director of Core Curriculum and Development for Teach for America Northeast Ohio. It is an honor and a privilege to be at the City Club of Cleveland today to present the first elementary youth forum focused on growth mindset. Welcome, students. We are so excited to have you here today with us. Let's give a round of applause to all the elementary students here who are making history in the room. The concept of growth mindset was proposed by Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck and elaborated in her book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. Dr. Dweck encourages young and old to drop their fixed mindsets and instead embrace a growth mindset. But just what is a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset? In a fixed mindset, people believe that their basic abilities, their intelligence, their talents are just traits that do not change. In a growth mindset, people believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work, and our brains actually act like a muscle that develops with practice and more than a fixed computer processor. It's not like a computer. It's really more like a muscle. Dr. Dweck would ask us, why waste time proving over and over again how great you are when you could be getting better? Why hide deficiencies instead of overcoming them? Why look for friends or partners who will shore up your self-esteem instead of ones who will also challenge you to grow? And why seek out that tired and true instead of experiences that will really stretch you? The passion for stretching yourself and sticking to it, even or especially when things aren't going well, is the hallmark of a growth mindset. This is the mindset that allows people to thrive during the most challenging times in their lives. And research has shown, and our panelists will tell you, that having a growth mindset creates a love of learning and a resilience that is essential and essentially what is needed for great accomplishment. Dr. Dweck says, the view that you adopt about yourself, that profoundly affects the way you lead your life. That view can determine whether you become the person you want to be and whether you will accomplish the things you value. And that is what matters most. Today, I am so proud that we have with us 4 leaders who embody growth mindsets. We will hear how growth mindset is played out in their lives, their work, and their leadership. First, I have the honor to introduce to you Judge Gail Williams Byers, Judge of the South Euclid Municipal Court. You can clap, go ahead. Judge William Byers is the first African-American judge in South Euclid's history and well known for her innovations about justice, particularly with regard to public access to the court, sentencing, and mental health. She is a leader in and outside of the courtroom. Seated next to her is Miss Kayla Provost, a second grade teacher at Village Prep Cliffs campus. Ms. Provost is a teacher who has incorporated growth mindset in the classroom. She is a 2014 core member with Teach for America Northeast Ohio and a leader with the Growth Mindset Collaborative Initiative as part of Teach for America. She is a leader in and outside of the classroom. Seated next to her is Mr. Mike Chernoff, General Manager of the Cleveland Indians baseball team. Mr. Chernoff's work in and outside the organization illustrates growth mindset in action. His ascent from intern to general manager is a very powerful story that you'll hear today. His attitude and engagement with others empowers all to be successful on and off the field and in and out of the office. And last but not least is Miss Belle Bay. Miss Belle Bay is the founder and director of Distinguished Gentlemen of Spoken Word, the marvelous young men who performed at the beginning of this forum. Miss Belle Bay is also a trainer for the Cuyahoga County Youth Work Institute and the Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services Board, and is the founding director of Bethune Girls, in addition to being a leader, poet, and author. And she, too, is a leader in and outside and around the world. And let's talk about you. You are our future leaders of the world. And I would like you to give a listen to our panelists, Judge Gail Williams-Byers, Mr. Mike Chernoff, Ms. Honey Belle Bay, Ms. Kayla Provells, as well as our facilitator, Anthony Price. Carol Dweck would say the only thing standing between you and your goals is the story you tell about yourself to yourself and why you can achieve them. The beauty is you have the power to change the story. We will see through this panel that the willingness to grow and change and to encourage those around you to do the same is all that makes a difference. We encourage everyone, especially all the young people here today, to embrace a growth mindset throughout your life and as leaders in our community. Growth mindset is the key for success for you, for me, for all of us, and for our communities. And so, at this time, on behalf of the City Club of Cleveland, I would like to thank you for joining us today, and I will turn over today's forum over to our moderator, Vice Chair of the City Club Youth Council, and a young man who has also been a student of mine, that it truly embodies the growth mindset, Mr. Anthony Price.
Thank you, Lucia. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Oh, that's a little dry. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Oh, that's a good welcome. My name is Anthony Price. I'm a senior at Shaw High School. I'm Vice Chairman of the City Club of Cleveland Youth Forum Council here. So I want to thank you guys for coming out. And I'm just honored to be here today. In 104 years, when you think about that, City Club, this is the first elementary youth forum. And you guys are all a part of that history-making process today. You're all changing the world just by sitting here today. So you guys are doing a great job. And I just want to thank the panelists again for coming out and being a part of this great historic event. So thank you guys for coming. We can give them a round of applause. So when we're here making history together at this first elementary youth forum, and I want you to think about to when you were at elementary school, and did you ever think you would be in the position you are today when you were in elementary school? And then what were you like in elementary school, and what was your mindset at the time, and how did that play over time? And anyone can start that.
Well, I'm happy to start.
Yeah.
And the short answer is no. When I was where so many of you all are right now, I never dreamed of being a judge. In fact, I thought I was going to be a ballerina. But then I realized that I've got a pretty good relationship with food. So me and the tutu didn't work out so well. And so I had to switch gears. And as I got a little bit older and I started studying more, then I realized that, I didn't mind talking to people. And as I started becoming a little more friendly with crowds and speaking to people, I learned my passion, and that's how I ended up becoming a lawyer, and public service has always been important to me, giving back. And this is, I believe, one of the greatest ways to give back. So this is how I landed here, from the ballerina to the judge, or the ballet judge, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I guess you're a ballerina in the courtroom too, and being the judge.
I am a little nimble.
Anyone else that want to answer?
My elementary self thought I would be a teacher. My high school self didn't, but here I am being a second grade teacher. I wanted to be a teacher by the time I was 5 until about 16, then studied communications and Bible in college, and then ended up doing Teach for America, and here I am teaching at Breakthrough Charter School. So I always loved school and learning as a child, and I think that was a combination of things from my parents and my teachers. I didn't know it was called growth mindset, but that was something definitely that was instilled in me. I always wanted the next challenge, and my teachers were always telling me, you can do this, or giving me a little bit harder work, and I felt special getting harder work, and so I wanted even harder work. And so that was something that I realized I had grown up with, and that my parents always continued to push me and told me I could do anything I wanted. So that was the growth mindset. Now I have a term for it, and am enjoying instilling that in my scholars in the classroom.
So not many kids when they're little say they want to be a general manager of a baseball team. They usually say they want to be a baseball player, and I too, as a little guy, wanted to play baseball. Had a passion for it. I have had a baseball catch with my dad once a month, every month. I still do it at 34 years old. I've done it since I was 6 years old. So I have a deep passion for baseball. But I had to work really hard in baseball. I wasn't a natural athlete in any way, and that hard work and perseverance helped me in other areas of my life. I'm not sure that I had a growth mindset in other areas, but I saw how it translated from baseball into the classroom. And when I played baseball up through college, which was further than I ever thought I might be able to, but as my skills on the field ran out, I transitioned into a front office and have worked my way up since then to the position I'm in.
When I was in elementary, I had a vision that I would grow up as a woman and work with a group of adolescent boys. No one starts out that way, but I did know that I had a passion for writing. I knew that writing was the one thing where I could be completely free. I could be completely me and create a world all of my own. Equally, I always knew that I wanted to serve and give something back. And when I met or had a vision of the distinguished gentleman, those two merged and had just a seamless marriage. And I was doing both, the ability to write and give back to the community at the same time.
So let's give a round of applause for Ms. Bell-Bagnan. So it's been said, with growth mindset visionaries that effort, and I'm going to read this, effort is one of the things that gives meaning to life. Effort means that you care about something and that something is important to you and you're willing to work for it. So you guys kind of hit about that in the first question I asked you. So can you elaborate a little bit more about your career? Do you love doing what you do? Why? And then how does a growth mindset play into your day-to-day professional life? And anyone can start that.
I'm going to nominate Mike.
So effort is, it's everything. And you don't want to hear about my job. You want to hear about the players' jobs probably. So I watch it with players every day in how we have our closer, Cody Allen, who some of you may have heard of, is one of the best players in the major leagues right now. When he was drafted, 697 other players were drafted ahead of him. So the only way that he got from being 698th to first was through that hard work. Nobody pointed at him and said, hey, that guy is going to be a major league closer when he gets older. So it is in my job, probably in all of your jobs, in our players' jobs, it's that mindset of continuous improvement. How do I take wherever I am right now and keep getting better? And I brought a little quote here. I did a little preparation for this. Nice. And so this is pretty amazing. Who, the best athlete any of you can think of, we're in a wonderful place to find that. Who do you think it is? Did you have someone in mind? No, the best athlete you can ever think of. Go ahead. Yeah. LeBron James, that's who I got a quote from. So here's what LeBron James said. I have it from a quote of what he said. I've got to have a growth mindset, man. That's what it's all about. Me still trying to improve, even at 30 and 12 years in the league. I think I've got room to improve, so if it's changing my free throws, if it's doing something different in the post, or if it's how I pass the ball or defend, I'm trying to get as much out of this game as I can while I'm in here. And I think that's the approach that we all take, and I see our players take that get to the top.
I can go next. As a teacher, you need to have a growth mindset, especially if you're instilling that in your children and your scholars. This is my second year teaching. Like I said, I'm a core member of Teach for America, so I didn't study it in college, so there was a big learning curve. But when you just believe that you can continue to learn and grow with it, then you really do. I have had incredible support, and being able to seek that out and seek back feedback, I think seeking back feedback is something that's huge in any profession in general, even when it doesn't sound or doesn't feel like the greatest, that's going to make you better. And then in that case, you can be able to give it to others as well. I'm our grade level chair for second grade as a second year teacher, and I was a little over daunted by the possibility at first, but my admin believed I could do it, and I eventually did too. And so that's been an incredible experience after no training before that, and I've been able to lead a team of 6 teachers this year and make decisions for our grade level and just kind of gain confidence there. So that's more of like the teacher side of it. But all of you guys in here that are scholars and students, I love my job, and you guys are continuing to learn and grow. And it's those light bulb moments you might have heard your teachers talk about when your brain just kind of lights up and it makes that connection. You guys get really excited when you see that happen, and we get really excited too. So that's a lot of growth mindset in the classroom.
And for me, I'll take it in our community-based classroom, because we're not at one school. My greatest demonstration of that as it relates to effort was the piece that Mujahid referenced in the poem they did about going to France. So when this great opportunity came upon us, we had more negative people saying no, that it can't happen, than positive people saying that it could happen originally. Someone comes, you guys want to go to France? We say, yeah, sure. And then they say, we don't have any money, do you? No. So I'm looking at the negative piece of it is we don't own a van. We don't have passports. We've never been on a plane as collectively as a group. But I asked the guys, do you all want to go? They said, absolutely. What do we have to do to be able to go? I need you to want to go. And then we can figure the rest out. What is it going to cost us? $80,000. And I told them plainly, we'll have $80,000 by the end of the month. What are your ideas to make it work? So the biggest lessons for me just became, if you want it, are you willing to take the effort to be creative enough to make it happen? So for us, it's always been about whatever I have to do by any means necessary, roll up my sleeves and get it done.
Judge, I don't know if you want to hit on the question or.
I guess I'm last, but that's not so bad. Let me start by saying, how many of you here are used to seeing a judge like this? How many are used to just seeing a judge just out and about? Not too many. How many of you naturally think judges are mean? Raise your hand. It's okay to raise your hand in here. Nobody's going to get in trouble in here. Okay. How many of you expect judges to be maybe a little bit older? More hands. Okay. How many of you expect judges to not be hip? I don't know who Nene is. Okay. How many of you would be surprised to know that, judges roll up their sleeves and do community service alongside the same people they order to do community service? What if I told you that? Okay. What if I told you that, some judges actually care so much about what happens to you that they send you birthday cards and get well cards? Okay. What if I told you that some judges know all of your kids' names or all your brothers and sisters' names? I say that because for so long we have this idea of what our justice system ought to look like. And that so many times when you come to a court, it's only because something negative has happened, and frequently that's true. But that because you had a negative experience to bring you there doesn't mean that your entire experience being there has to be negative. That what I've learned is that we have perhaps the one time to make the biggest positive impact on somebody's life because we have them there. It's all about how we choose to use it. And that we can use the court system and the justice system as the biggest bully pulpit to, pretty much, force people to do things, but we can encourage them too. And so whereas you might see me as somebody that should have one of those little white doilies, those little white things that go around the collar. Who watches Judge Judy? Anybody watch Judge Judy? See? No more hands. I knew how to get them up in the air. I don't have one, y'all. I don't have one of those. But I tell you what, I can play hopscotch. I know how to play jacks. I can double dutch too. And you know what? It matters to me what books you're reading. Would it surprise you if I told you that I give away book bags and books for the summer because I want you guys to read in the summertime and I want you to be prepared when it's time to come back to school? And so that's where I think this all matters is, moving away from what we traditionally believe the role is into the things that really directly, personally impact the people whose lives we have a chance to change in that moment.
Nice. So all of these amazing things that you guys are talking about, and you've become successful where you are now. And I'm sure there was a struggle to that. And we know that struggle makes us smarter and it forces our brain, like our brain works like a muscle, so it forces our brain to get stronger. It's just like a weight, we apply more weight to it, apply more pressure, and we have so many attempts to use it. So in our life, we're faced with certain situations that makes us smarter, that forces us to be smarter. They're placed in our life for that particular purpose. So can you just think about a time in your life when a situation was put in your life and how it forced your brain to get even stronger and to expand your mindset to grow?
Please, by all means.
I've got two, one in my life and one in one of our players' lives. When I was younger, I considered myself pretty good at math. I loved sports. I worked hard. I thought I was not a reader. Couldn't read, couldn't write. And I just had this fixed approach to it where I didn't enjoy it. And so I just stopped trying at it. And one of these struggles that I had was my sophomore year in high school. I finally had a teacher who just made me write 2 pages every day. Had to write 2 pages on the computer every day. It was supposed to be about what we were learning about, but she never checked that. 2 pages every day. And that struggle of doing it, it was painful, it was really hard, but that was a breakthrough for me. And now I consider myself one of the better writers on our staff in Cleveland. So that's the first one about me. The second one, which will be much more interesting, is about our major league players and Francisco Lindor, who might be the best player on our team right now. When he came up to the major leagues last year, he was second. He was the second best first-year player in the league. But when he first came up, his first 100 plate appearances with us, the first 100 times he came up to bat, he only got 20 hits in those 100 plate appearances, and that's not very good. And so that struggle of seeing that, hey, the major leagues are really hard. He could have done 2 things, and I've seen this with our major league players. He could have given up and gotten sent back to the minor leagues, or he could have persevered through that and worked even harder to get better. The players that succeed in the major leagues for us are the ones who embrace that struggle and who try to get better. And so now you see the fruit of that with him and how successful he's been since then. It's a common story with guys who are successful in the major leagues.
Well, I'll quickly piggyback on that because I have my own challenges all throughout school. What I forgot to mention is when I didn't think I could make it as a ballerina, my next option was going to be like an astronaut until I realized I'd have to learn how to count really well because there's a lot of math involved. And I have a math phobia. Like I just feel like I cannot do really well with math. And I did really good in school. I managed to go to college, and just as I was about to graduate with my master's, they lowered the boom on me and told me I had to take statistics. I was so hoping it was another reading class because it was math, guys. It was math, and it wasn't just any kind of math. So I was so afraid that I wasn't going to make it out of this class that I just wouldn't graduate. And I had an instructor that was like, you know what, Gail, you can do it. Just focus, just try. And every single time I'd come to class, after everyone left, somehow I'd be left behind. And this particular professor was always concerned about not just how I was doing with the coursework, but how I was doing mentally, because it was so consuming. I got an A in the class, by the way. I got an A. But the moral of the story is I still keep a calculator really close to me because I don't trust my skills still. So I'm still not that good. But I'm really impressed with that particular professor because they knew that even though it wasn't my best skill, that I tried. But the other story I'll tell you, which is something sort of piggybacks off of what Mike said, is my job isn't easy. I tell people sometimes I see some of the best people on their worst days. Not everybody's a bad person. They just made a mistake. And some people's mistakes are sort of worse than others. I mean, it's sort of different from taking that last cookie out the cookie jar. Sometimes you take the whole pack off the shelf in the store and walk out. That's a little bit different. A cookie's a cookie, I understand. It's just sort of where you get the cookie is the problem. And so I had a situation with a young lady who had just been struggling with all kinds of issues, and she's got some other mental health issues. And she's probably been with me for as long as I've been a judge. That's how long we've been together. And it had gotten to the point where I had literally taken her case and I had transferred it to another judge and had the other judge work with her. And that didn't work out, and that judge threw up their hands and said, you got to take her back. So I said, I've never heard of such. She comes back to me and she still just isn't doing the best. And I didn't want to do it, but I ended up sending her to jail for a certain period of time. And after she went to jail for a period of time, she comes back to me and she thanked me. And I said, who thanks somebody from going to jail, right? I mean, that doesn't happen. But I'll tell you, with me working with her and having faith in her and encouraging her, even through all of this, I find now that she is such a healthier person, that we're still together. She still comes to see me. And she promises me a steak dinner as if I really need anything else to eat. But she always promises me a steak dinner. But what I really care more about is that she's not getting in any more trouble, that she's in a healthy relationship at home, that she hasn't done anything else wrong. And if all it takes is her coming to see me every month or so, then you know what? I'll take it. Because at the end of the day, she's better, the community's better, and everybody's won. And so that takes a real commitment, because everybody else would say, listen, who's got the time? That takes a lot out of you. But we got to approach this thing differently, and I'm real proud of her.
I'll take that piece, and my story still always leans back to the distinguished gentleman. They're one of my greatest teachers, but the experience as it relates to France was the most I've ever struggled on any project in my entire life. And someone should have given me a manual, warning guide, something. But when we were attempting to raise this money, there were other agencies who entered a competition with us. So other nonprofit groups from across the country. And each day, Jalil and I would look at the board and see how much, and it was maybe 13 agencies, had raised. All West Coast agencies. And the one little agency from Cleveland, Ohio, it still had the $50 in it that I think I put 25 of it. And they were in like 5,000 marks. And so I would tell him, we'll get there. We'll get there somehow, some way. So just the morning that I opened up the Plain Dealer, and it was our story was on the front page of the Plain Dealer. Within an hour, because it's listed on the website, 4 agencies, row 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So each day, I'm used to seeing myself in position 16. We'll get there. And to see us that same morning, we went from position 16 to position number 1. And now we're ahead. Cleveland raised more money than any other agency in the country. So they flew Jalil and I out, like red carpet style, to California to accept this award, but the struggle still wasn't over. Now we had the money, but still couldn't go to France because there were, I'm sure he doesn't mind me using his story. Thank you. There was, in Amir's case, we needed passports. Guess what you need, young people, to get a passport? You need 2 parents to sign off that you can go. So we now have a struggle. We have parents in Timbuktu. We have parents deceased. We have parents in Arizona. We have parents incarcerated. We have wardens saying, I won't get the paper. So what does that mean for Miss Honey? I now need to, for the first time in my life, since you mentioned sending someone to jail, I now need to fly to a prison to be able to fight for a passport. I now need to call Marsha Fudge to be able to fight to help us to get a passport. So that struggle at the end of the day, down to the day before we flew out, and I won't forget Amir saying to me, you did the best you could, Miss Honey. You did everything you could. You're flying across just to get a signature. You tried. I will be at the top of the Eiffel Tower in spirit with you all. And I told him, you will be at the top of the Eiffel Tower with us, or none of us will be at the Eiffel Tower. Were you at the top of the Eiffel Tower? So don't be afraid of struggle. At the end of struggle is success. If you use that struggle with the determination that struggle doesn't mean no. It just means I have to struggle until I get to a yes.
So I'm just going to wrap up with this last question, and anyone can answer it. So one of my favorite quotes, since we heard a lot today about Carol Dweck, and one of my favorite quotes about her is that test scores and a measure of achievement tell you where a student is, but they don't tell you where a student could end up. So looking to the future, what do you envision for all these students in the room and all the listeners that are listening on the radio and all the elementary school students that are out there? What will be the key?
I can start off. Yeah, your test scores don't define you. I'm not a math person myself, and numbers and data, all of that. Had to get a little bit better at that since teaching, of course. But you are individuals. You have God-given gifts, abilities, talents, and you need to use them and you need to discover them. You're all so young and have so much ahead of you, and I mean, I'm still figuring out things that I'm good at even now as an adult. And so you just need to keep working harder and harder, and literally your brain is a muscle. It will continue to grow as you struggle with it. Embrace that challenge. One of like my kids, we have a sign in our classroom saying, like, instead of saying like, I give up or this is too hard, say this may take some time and effort. Put in that time and effort. I share a really quick story. I had a girl in December who she was crying in the middle of her state test. You all are taking state tests. Sadly, you're all going to keep taking more. We have to give them to you. I'm sorry. But she was crying in the middle of it because she's like, this is so hard. And she was at like a 3rd or 4th grade level in 2nd grade because she had been continuing to work harder and growing more and more. And I said, if you can do this, I believe you can. She's like, no, I can't. And then kind of what the distinguished gentleman said, like, if you believe you can't, then you can't. But I said, you have to believe that you can, and then you will. And she like let that sink in for a minute. She's like, I can do this. You know, it's going to take some time and effort. At the end of the test score, you could find out what it was right away. She surpassed her growth goal and went above and beyond what she thought she could even do. And so while that is like a number, for her, it gave her that confidence that she needed, that she could keep working hard at it, and that like there were no limits. And so that's something that I believe is true for each and every one of you. Don't limit yourself and just keep on working hard.
Anyone else want to answer the question?
I'll tell you the same thing I tell all of our players. Your test scores, so for you, your test scores, for our players, their performance, it doesn't define you. What we tell them is the best way to predict the future is to create it. Abraham Lincoln said that. And that's exactly how to think about your test scores. It is an assessment in time. It doesn't define who you are. When Francisco Lindor is batting 200, that doesn't define who he is. He has to look at a scoreboard. You don't even have to look at the scoreboard. He has to look at a giant scoreboard every night with whatever his batting average is that night. That doesn't define him. The best way to predict who he's going to be in the future is not to take that and extrapolate it out, but to create a new future. So we tell all of our players that, and I would tell you the same thing.
I'd have to say my thunder is stolen already, and I'm so encouraged by what's been said because they've said just exactly what I would tell you. First of all, I'm a parent too. So you know what I've always told my son is your brain is the strongest muscle in your body. Use it. If every other muscle gives way, you still got that brain, and it's a wonderful thing, and it keeps growing, and the more you put in it, the more you'll get out. The best thing about education is once we all give it to you, nobody can take it back. It's yours to keep forever. And so use it, have it, own it. It's all yours. And test scores, they're just what they are. Yes, sometimes they can tell you where you are right now, but it can never tell you where you're going. I will tell you, I am, what I feel like is a product of one of the most challenged communities in all of Cuyahoga County. And if somebody looked at my test scores then and compared me to somebody else, they would probably predict that I would not be sitting here in a robe needing a doily, right? But guess what? Not a test score or an address or anything else can tell you where you're going. You get to decide that. You get to decide what your future is going to look like. You get to decide how high you'll rise, how far you'll fly, and how far you'll go. And so take hold of your future. I told a young man just the other day, be careful who your friends are. There's a real big difference between chickens and eagles. Eagles fly, chickens don't. They both got feathers and they both got wings. Hang out with the eagles. They'll be the ones flying.
And lastly, I think to go back to his original question, where do I envision you all? I envision you all exactly where you envision yourself. So if you envision yourself as a doctor, that's the person I look to see taking care of me in 25 years. If you're the lawyer, if you're the next judge, the same words to the piece they were doing, if you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. I envision you accomplishing and achieving whatever your mind can create without limitations, knowing that you're going to make some mistakes. You get up, you dust yourself off, and you try again. And no matter how hard it is, you put your hat in the ring and you keep trying. And at the end of it, you're going to get a win. You are. You just have to keep trying at it.
All right. Well, now the forum's over. No, I'm kidding. So this is our moderate and the conclusion of our moderated discussion. I just want to thank the panelists again for coming out. And so today we're enjoying a panel discussion by Ms. Honeybell Bay, Mr. Mike Chernoff, Ms. Kayla Provost, and Judge Gail William Byers. We're going to begin our Q&A session, and everyone is welcome to say a question, including teachers. I see teachers in the audience as well, even though we have elementary youth forums, and teachers, you can ask questions as well. So we're going to have, if you like to tweet a question for those teachers that have cell phones or elementary school students as well. If you have a Twitter account, you can feel free to tweet a question at the City Club, and our staff will try to work on it into the program. We want to remind you, you guys, I know you guys are all great change agents. You have all these great questions, but please remember to keep your questions brief and to the point. Holding the microphones today are very own CEO Dan Moulthrop and Faye Walker. So the first question, please.
Here, I got it. Go ahead. You got to stand up though.
What's the metaphor for eagles flying in a chicken?
Metaphor.
What's the metaphor for eagles and chickens? Well, chickens are birds, as are eagles, but chickens are grounded. They can't fly. And so your flight means how high you'll go, how far you'll go. And if you can't use your wings to fly, you're not going really far. But eagles, on the other hand, they're a bird, they've got feathers, and they have a large wingspan. And boy, when they take off, they can go really high and they can go really, really far. And so you should try to be more like an eagle, number one. And number two, make sure you seek out friends that are more like eagles than they are like chickens, meaning they don't make bad decisions, they're not doing bad things, they don't keep you in bad company, and they're not leaving you holding the bag. See, they're gonna get in trouble, they're gonna stay grounded, and they won't be soaring, they're not going far, they're not going high. But the eagles in your life, they're gonna be reading, they're gonna be paying attention, they'll be respectful, and they will do great things just like you. Just the kind of company you wanna keep.
My question is, during a court case, if it's difficult, would you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset?
Well, you know, I have those challenges almost every day. And I like to think that the way I approach each case is pretty much with a growth mindset. I don't think that everybody's the same. I don't think everybody needs the same response. And because of that, I think sometimes a new or a different approach does the trick. I'll tell you, if we do things the same way we always did, we might get the results we always got. I think we can change people if we just sort of change the way we approach it. So I think I got a growth mindset. I'm glad it's got a term now.
Next question.
How smart you gotta be to be in the city club? The city club.
Should I answer that? Well, that's a very interesting question. It's not about how smart you are. It's about how much effort you put into it. So whatever you're dedicated to, and that's what makes City Club so unique, is that they're that source. They're being that site itself for free speech. And so they're able to produce forums like this one of its very own that you're dedicated about, and you can make the difference. Not the panelists, or the panelists, they're making a difference right now, but you can really make the difference by becoming, when you're in high school, a part of the youth council, which gives you the opportunity to make that difference and be dedicated on a particular issue that is dear to your heart.
What is the most challenging thing as a teacher, and how did you overcome it?
It's a different thing every day, I feel like. But the most challenging thing, is when you are just like a human being. You're tired and you don't feel like doing, you feel like kind of giving up. My kids say to me, like, I'm just so tired, Miss Provost, like, I can't do this. And sometimes I'll be like, I'm tired too, but we're gonna persevere together. So it's kind of just, there's bigger challenges where we have deadlines as teachers, and we have all these different spreadsheets and worksheets that we need to fill out too. We get a lot of homework as well. And so it's kind of managing your time. Time management might be the hardest struggle. And so we try to teach you guys how to do that, but we need to really work on that ourselves. So keeping ourselves organizing, making a list and sticking to it, setting reminders, little things like that. But in the moment when we just really are tired and feel like giving up or going home, we can't do that. We're there, and we believe that you guys are so important and that your futures are so important. So staying there and persevering with you is, and you encourage us, and we hope to encourage you in that way. So.
Do you have another question?
How does eagles fly and chickens don't? I don't know.
I think we can move on.
Another question?
I have a question for everyone that's up there. At the place that you are now, do you think that if you wasn't there right now, do you think other job that you would have, would it still be as helping kids and making them have a better life?
I think that's an excellent question. I certainly wouldn't be a ballerina. So I know that. But you know what? Before I became a judge, I was a county prosecutor. And as a county prosecutor, I really feel like I did as best a job I could, and a really good job, in helping young people and helping kids and helping families when they were the victims of crimes, or if something happened that was bad, that it was my job to help as best I could to explain things to them and to try to make things right as best I could. So I believe that if I were not a judge now, I would still be doing something. If not that, I'd be doing something to help better the lives of people around me, because that's just what makes my heart sing. That's the thing that makes me okay with the person looking back at me in the mirror. And I get up each day knowing that I'm okay with whatever the outcome is, because I tried my hardest.
Another question? Yeah. We can give a round of applause for that. Looks like we have a question over here.
This is a question for Miss Honey. What made you form a group of young, handsome poets like myself?
Well, what made me form a group for young, handsome poets? I don't know about the handsome part. No, I'm just kidding. I think see a need, find an answer. I live on the exact same street where I serve the poets, or serve you all. You all know that. And at the time when I formed the Distinguished Gentlemen, there were a lot of young men hanging out, and I just wanted you to stop sitting on my car, truly. No, but the part of that, I needed you all to have something engaging to be involved in. And I knew that you had the creative, innate talent. I didn't give it to you. I knew that I had the ability to help fish it out, and wanted you all to see that same strength. Before that, to go back to your question, I know you haven't been in the group that long, so you wouldn't know this. My degree is in broadcast production technology. So I worked for CNN affiliates in Atlanta. I worked for NBC affiliates, and I would do what this person is doing in the back. I would run camera. And then what would happen for the morning news, they developed something called RoboCams, which means I could come to work in my pajamas. I could sit in the newsroom and through a board control the cameras on their own. So I never interacted with people. It was just technology, and something in me, I've always had to do something that touches people. So equipment has no feeling. I knew I was not supposed to do that. So even if I were not working with young, handsome poets as yourself, I would innately still do something that touched the lives of people. That's who I am.
And then our last question.
This is a question for everybody. How did you persevere through the challenges in your jobs?
Start that. Anyone want to start that?
Growth mindset. I think whether you know that term or don't, what I find with a lot of people, either in my field or players or people who have been successful in their careers, it's that when they hit a roadblock, when something tough happens, they put their head down, they try again, they try to persevere through it, and they try to learn something from it. So we call it, in our job, we call it continuous improvement. It's like LeBron James. He is the best player in the game right now. Tomorrow, he might not be. How does he make sure that tomorrow he can be just as successful? It's by working a little bit harder each day. So for us, it's that put your head down, work a little bit harder, learn something from it, and find new ways to do things.
I think that's a huge thing. Admitting when you made a mistake, it's big, because we're humans, we all make mistakes, and so it's like learning from them. What do you do from that and persevering with it? I pray a lot. I have good friends that support and check in on me, and so kind of building that good support system of eagles that are going to help you fly even when you're adults. You just keep persevering through that, and having that support system I think is important.
For me, perseverance comes from the end game. If you were to take young people out of the equation, I would not persevere. For me, I'd give up, because the money, the financing, the grants, the bureaucracy, But the end game, when I look at young people, they're the end game. So I persevere because I know what it means to them. In a few days, I have 3 seniors who've matriculated through the program, who will graduate sitting over here at these tables and go on to college. They're the end game. I have young men in colleges all over the country. So I persevere because I remember that the bigger picture is never about me. It's about the young people that I provide services to or for.
All right, with that instead, I'll turn it over to Ms. Uragity Eiler.
Today at the City Club, we've been enjoying the first elementary forum, a panel discussion on growth mindset. Today's forum is sponsored by AT&T and presented in partnership with Teach for America, Northeast Ohio. We thank each of you for your support, and that brings us to the end of today's forum. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.